Welcome to Movie Friends. We are your hosts, Seth and Michelle, and today we're talking about It's a Wonderful Life from 1946. Directed by Frank Capra, written by Frank Capra, Francis Goodrich, and Albert Hackett, edited by William Hornbeck, composed by Dmitri Tiomkin, starring Jimmy Stewart, Donna Reed, Lionel Barrymore, Thomas Mitchell, and Henry Travers. Michelle, hee-haw.
Yeehaw!
What is that hee-haw thing? What is that?
It has to be the new greeting from now on.
It's insane. And I
Yeah.
didn't realize it that he does it the whole even when they're little
Yeah.
kids. He's
It's
running around, they're all like, "Hee-haw."
it's his signature line.
But you keep the same signature line from when you were like 6 years
It's
old.
like you're establishing branding at a very young age. It kind of makes sense for where we end up, right?
Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true. All
Yeah.
right. Well, that's the show, folks.
That's it. Thanks so
A-
much.
All my questions were answered. Anyway, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I've recovered from my repeat viewings of It's a Wonderful Life.
How many times did you watch?
Twice.
Twice. Did you do black and white and color?
I did,
You
actually. I did.
did.
Yes. The first time, the first result that comes up is the color version. And it was so late at night. I think I was starting it at 2:20 in the morning.
That's crazy,
Something crazy
Seth.
like that. Well, it was crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? I'm putting this on kind of just to get the ball rolling
Mm-hmm.
on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna fall asleep. I ended up not falling asleep. So yeah, I don't prefer the color version, and we'll talk about that a little
Yeah.
bit. But
Mm-hmm.
to me, I thought, well, now we're getting into talking about the movie, but
Well, it's okay. This is the
yeah,
platform to discuss said movie.
that's true. That's true. But you went to see The Sopranos. What was
I
that? Can you explain what that
did.
is?
Yeah, it was I guess a panel discussion
Okay.
talking Soprano. Well, not talking Sopranos. Talking Sopranos is their podcast,
Okay.
but it was kind of a in discussion with the Sopranos, and so it had Michael Imperioli who plays Christopher. But I feel like I'm
Okay.
giving names and you don't even know who these people are.
I know him from White Lotus.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Mhm.
And then you had Vincent Pastore who played Big Pussy.
Okay, I don't
And
know.
I know I was.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Yeah. And then who I always like to me, he's just like Bobby, but Steve Shreba, which I screw up that
Mhm.
last name, but he played Bobby on this round. So the three of them talked about the show and what it was like to be on it, and it was really fun. And I went with Krista and Anthony, and I was like, wow, it's time to rewatch The Sopranos again.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was really
Awesome.
good. It's really good. But it was moderated by the quintessential dirty Italian old man comedian
Oh, okay.
that makes you feel like home, but also you're like, please stop talking about your dick.
Right.
Right.
Sure.
Right. Besides that, because he opened the show for like too long and then
Got it.
he went into moderating questions and whatnot.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were like, I didn't really come for this.
Correct. And I
Yeah.
kept looking, I'm like, Krista, this is my hell when like I'm being
Mm.
punked. Where's Ashton? Like I'm here for the Sopranos and yeah. And then you had like people around you like, oh my God, he's so funny. I'm like, oh my God, this is Long Island. This
Right.
is
Hey,
yeah.
it's a wonderful island.
It's a wonderful island. How was your weekend?
Good. I don't think I did anything.
Oh, okay.
Wait, hold on. What did I
You
do?
did though. Didn't you have like a really cool interview?
What day? Oh man. Okay, I gotta tell you, I never realized how big of like a creature of habit I was
Yeah.
until we started screwing with the movie friends schedule. Because for months it's been record on Wednesday, Patreon episode on Thursday, main show on Monday, you tweet this on Tuesday. It's like clockwork.
I know.
And then
I
coming
know.
into December and doing this whole secondary series, and now we're recording on a different day, and I am so screwed up in the head.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've texted you in the first half of this month and being like, wait, when are we doing this? And then I
Yeah.
write notes in our shared note app and then I erase. I actually wrote one the other day and I erased it. I was like, I'm not even going to add to this. It was like,
Yeah.
when were we recording A Christmas Story? And I was like,
Right, right.
wait a minute. I think Seth's doing that with, I don't even know if it, you know what? Nope. I'm not adding to this. I'm not adding to this. And then I had to reschedule things. It's
Yeah.
messy.
We had to reschedule recording with Kate
I know.
because we had something double booked that we didn't know about. And
Yeah.
yeah, and so someone had reached out to me like Saturday night and I set up an interview for Monday morning. And so I spent all day Sunday just like learning everything I could about like this person and their country that they're from. So yeah, I feel like I'm in like the twilight zone a little bit.
Yeah. But we made it.
We made it. We're here.
We're here.
We also have no emails because we're recording out of schedule. I know, kind of weird, right? So we're just going right into it.
Well, wait, can I actually share
You can share
something
whatever you
with
want.
you?
Yeah.
And it has to do with someone who sometimes sends us emails. Good friend to the show, Betsy.
Oh yes, Betsy.
Betsy and I will talk on Instagram occasionally, and she sent me a really funny deleted scene from Love Actually
Oh man.
of Sam the kid. There was an idea where he would be really good at gymnastics, and he like flips through the airport scene. If you guys haven't seen it, you should look it up. And I texted you a couple of days ago. I was like, "Oh my god, Betsy was in my dream."
Yes.
I felt weird saying that to her. You're like, "Hey, you
Yeah,
were in my dream."
I told her.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, this was gonna be my way of telling her.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's it. That's the end of the story.
I like a few hours after you told me about that, I think I said to her something like, "You were in Michelle's dream." And then she said, "That's really weird because you, meaning me, Seth, was in Betsy's dream."
Whoa.
Same night. It's the movie Friends and Never Seen It crossover that you've been waiting for. It's just happening in our dreams.
Wow, that's crazy.
Speaking of crossovers that you've been waiting for, we are now, folks, when this episode comes out, less than a month from our live show. You got to come out. Michelle and I were planning some funny stuff. If you think I don't want to come out, it's just going to be two people sitting there talking. That's not what it is, okay? It's going to be weird and funny.
Interactive.
There's going to be stuff happening, and you're going to be like, I wish I was there. So,
Yeah. I'm sure we have the link in our show notes, right?
oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. Okay, good.
We will, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good.
So before Michelle watches a film for the first time, she records her pre-watch thoughts. So let's listen to that real quick.
I'm sure this is going to be a great movie. It's a classic. I pretty much know the storyline. I know Jimmy Stewart is in it. I'll probably cry. I think it's just one of those things where it's been like a running joke for myself. Is it a joke? It's just been a running thing in my life of I've never seen It's a Wonderful Life. And every year I'm like, oh, I'm going to watch it. And I never do. And so I guess it took me being on a movie podcast for a year for me to actually sit down and watch this movie.
So I also avoided this movie until last year. I only saw this for the first time last year.
Why did you avoid it?
Because you know me and my whole thing, grumpy, and I hate Christmas, and it's the movie that everyone had seen, and so like you put those three things together, and
Yeah, but I feel like this one for you wouldn't fall into that category because it's from the 40s and that's all I have.
I
That's really
guess.
actually all I have. It's from the
But like
40s.
growing up, you know, it was like everyone's always watching it at Christmas, and it's on TV all the time, and
So you didn't grow up with it.
no, not at all.
Right. I'm
Not at all.
okay, cool. This is good. We're kind of on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
But when I watched it, I was like, wow, I can't believe I avoided this movie for so long. And rewatching it, even though I watched the colorized version, I was just like, is this the greatest movie I've ever seen? Like, is this the great American film? Like, truly? Yeah, but we'll talk about that. So, you said that you thought that you were going to cry.
Yeah. I didn't.
Did it happen? You
No,
didn't.
no, I didn't. I didn't
Wow.
cry. It's not that I was grumpy face, no
Yeah.
emotion either. I don't know why. I don't know what movie I'm thinking of because I feel like when this movie has been talked about in conversation before with other people, people always say, "Oh, it's so sad.
Yeah.
Oh, it's an emotional one." And so me who I truly I feel the feels and I love to feel the feels and I will cry mostly everything. I didn't experience that. I was kind of waiting for it.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I didn't, I really did like this. I really, really did like it. And I love the
Mm-hmm.
story. And I thought it was a great message. And there's lots to talk about in terms of grass is always greener, what
Yeah.
really matters in life, right? But I didn't cry. And I was expecting this to be a lot more depressing.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, there's definitely depressing parts.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, I cry not because it's sad. I cry because it's so happy. Like the end, which we'll talk about the end, but yeah.
Yeah,
Because
that's
to
fair.
me, this isn't like a sad movie. This is just like a realistic look at life.
I agree.
Sometimes your life is just a series of things that don't go the way that you want.
Right.
But so it's like that for everybody. Like, what do you really expect?
Right.
And like,
And
even the people who have millions of dollars, they're still getting divorced and they're still
mhm.
in pain and they're still abusing substances and things don't go the way that they thought that they would go.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway. Okay, so my first question for you is, you said that you thought you knew what the general outline of the movie was. Were you correct or were you off on some things?
Well, there's an extreme amount of character buildup.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
I thought we were getting more Angel stuff. I thought,
Yep.
even though I
Yep.
didn't know his name before I went
Yeah.
into this, but I thought we were getting Clarence a lot earlier.
Yep.
And I thought
Oh,
we were going to see his life as if he wasn't born more
yeah.
instead of it just being like crammed in like the last very small portion, what I felt of the movie.
Absolutely. This is a little side note, but I just wanted to say, over the last year, as you have seen a lot of like really big films, right? You see it everywhere in pop culture, all of the different references. You need to rewatch. There's gonna be so many like Simpsons stuff and Gilmore Girls stuff. This movie is referenced nonstop.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'm gonna even hear it now and be like, oh, I actually get it. Because I've
Yeah.
definitely have seen, the themes throughout things I have
Yeah. Yeah.
watched.
Like Clarence and Bell Raining and Potterville and
Yeah. Yeah.
so I agree with you. And even though I just watched this movie, when I watched it for the first time the other night, and it was so late, I watched until the scene where he goes on the bridge. And I thought, okay, I must be like halfway. And then I pressed pause and there was like less than 30 minutes left. And I was like, wow, we really don't
Yeah.
exist in this world without him for very long at all. And I agree with you. This is like 80% buildup and then the weird little sci-fi Twilight Zone 10-15 minutes and then the conclusion.
Yeah. Which I guess sets you up for really, really feeling for him and understanding George Bailey.
Yes, and as the people all kind of come in one at a time and like throw money at him, it's
Yeah.
not just a bunch of random people, it's like people and like you understand his connection with all of them.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So in that way, I mean, it works, and like it's kind of odd in that way. If they hadn't made everyone so entertaining and feel like full characters, this would definitely be a movie where you're like, okay, we're just spinning our wheels. Like, what are we doing? But to me, I found almost every character like very interesting, and they felt like a full person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Even down to the Raven.
I'm very glad that you brought up the Raven. Did you look up anything about this Raven?
A couple of things. He's like it's a symbol of good luck for Frank Capra.
Okay.
Did you read that?
Well, yeah, he was in Capra's film It Happened One Night.
Is it Capra? I said Cobra. Frank
Capra.
Capra. I
Yeah.
I apologize. Okay, continue.
He accepts her apology.
Thank you.
It Happened One Night was the first film to win Best Picture, Director, Actor, Actress, and like one other one.
Wow.
Might be like screenplay.
Hmm.
The first one to ever do that, and very few films have done that since. And so Capra put the crow or raven, it's either a raven or a
Yeah.
crow,
Right.
in like every movie that he made after that.
I like that
Yeah.
because they don't really address it ever, and you're not supposed to. He means nothing in the movie. He's just kind of a pet.
Yeah.
And I was like, there has to be a reason for this. It can't just be like random.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like that explanation.
the uncle kind of has a weird pet thing.
Does he?
So the crow is called Jimmy. That's his real name. Jimmy the Crow or Jimmy the Raven.
Do they say it and I
No,
miss
no,
the
no,
name?
no. No,
Oh.
just in real life.
Oh, okay. Jimmy.
Yeah,
Got it.
in real life, Jimmy the Crow. But
Billy.
Uncle Billy also has like other animals around. Like there's a squirrel at one point that's like crawling all over him. The crow is the most prominent. I really need to just pick a lane and say crow or raven,
I
but
know. I
I
know.
keep going back and forth. Did you look up anything else about Jimmy?
No, that was like I stopped at just good luck charm and I said, "Okay," because
Okay.
I
Well,
noticed
I'm
him
glad.
and then I was like, "Oh." And then we go through obviously a lot older, right?
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh, he's still alive." But
he's
birds
still
could live
alive.
forever, but maybe this wasn't the same Jimmy.
Listen,
You're about to tell me something.
everyone, I am about to tell you, I have a whole section of notes on Jimmy the Raven. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
We need a shorty called just Jimmy the Raven.
Right.
Yeah.
But nobody in Bedford, what's it called?
Bedford Falls.
No one in Bedford Falls ever dies. Everyone lives forever except for George's dad. George's dad is the only one
Yes. And we don't
who
even see it. We
dies.
don't see it.
We don't even see it.
Right.
But like Potter, this old man, when
I
he's a kid,
he's the same age. He's
he
the
grows
same
up
age the whole
and he's the
time.
same. Yep. Mr. Gower,
Mm-hmm.
the pharmacist, when you meet him, he's old enough to have a kid dying in college.
I
You know what I
know.
mean?
Right.
George grows up. Guess who's there? Bringing money. It's old Mr. Gower. How old is Mr. Gower?
Yeah, I was
How is it possible?
shocked to see him. That threw me a little bit. And I literally in my notes right now, how is Gower still alive?
Yes,
Question mark,
yes.
exclamation point, question.
What are we calling the alternate reality?
Pottersville.
Pottersville? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So Pottersville, Gower comes in to the bar and George is like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, of course you wouldn't know. He's been in prison for 20, did they say 20 years?
Something like that.
Something
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, so this guy's
Mm-hmm.
been in prison for decades
Mm-hmm.
through the 20s and 30s. This guy ain't making it out alive.
No.
This little shrimpy pharmacy guy. Are you
No.
kidding me?
No. Not at all.
Jimmy the Crow.
Jimmy the Crow. Jimmy the Crow Raven.
So, what if I told you that Jimmy the Raven starred in 1,000 movies
Shut up. Was he in
in the
Birds?
30s and 50s? I don't believe that he was in Birds. He was the bird. If you look up his acting credits, the two big ones that they give are It's a Wonderful Life and then as the crow that lands on the scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz.
Okay. I have
Yeah.
chills.
Yeah, you didn't even know you were looking at a famous bird.
I'm now a really big fan of Jimmy the Crow / Raven. I need like an apparel of Jimmy the Crow / Raven.
Jimmy was trained. He knew a few hundred words, but his trainer said only 50 of them were useful.
Oh, okay.
He was trained to type on a typewriter. He could open letters, and he could even ride a miniature bicycle that was made just for him.
I'm speechless.
Yes, it's insane. It's insane.
When I sent you a message and I was like, hey, can we talk about behind the scenes of this
Yeah,
movie? I had no idea this was coming.
I know. No,
Wow.
nobody expects Jimmy the Raven.
Chris McCa came early for me.
So I pulled some stuff from his Wikipedia page, which I fully recommend everyone. Just type in Jimmy. And here's what I found: you can type in either Jimmy the Crow or Jimmy the Raven,
Wow.
and
That's great.
it'll bring it all up.
That's great.
So Jimmy received a Red Cross gold medal in acknowledgement of 200 hours spent entertaining veterans after the war.
Wait, who owns Jimmy the Raven? Where did
His
he
trainer. Okay, this sounds like I'm making it up. Okay, it's not. His trainer, whose name was Curly Twyford.
Oh,
Curly Twyford. Yeah.
are we dreaming right now? This giving
Jimmy
me.
the Crow had a $500 a week fee.
Wow.
Yes, Jimmy the Crow is making more than some people are making in 2023. He's a crow.
Oh my God. How long did Jimmy the Crow live for?
He lived for 20 years.
Wow. And how old was he in It's a Wonderful Life? Do we know?
Well, let's see.
Hope y'all were
I,
excited for bird talk
I
today.
don't have that exact information. I could find it, but yeah.
Seth, what if we did a side podcast of famous animals in movies?
You definitely could, man.
That could be like some fun bonus content.
So you know how they put people's like handprints
Mhm.
outside of the Chinese theater?
Mhm.
Jimmy the Crow has his footprints in cement at a large Los Angeles pet store alongside those of Lassie and other Hollywood animal stars. So did this just become a place that you need to visit?
Yeah. And I've been to LA and I've walked the Walk of Fame, but I
Yeah.
have to go here.
Yeah, the
This is
famous
this is
pets.
now a pit stop.
How do you get a crow's footprints in cement?
I think you just like lightly drop and then pick up real quick.
That's what killed Jimmy the Crow.
No, is that really?
No, I'm
Oh,
just saying.
okay.
They couldn't get all of
No, he got stuck.
his feet clean.
Wow, that's great, Seth. Thank you for sharing that.
And last thing about Jimmy is at one point, according to his Wikipedia page, he had 21 stand-ins, including 15 females. They would fill in for him when the scene did not require any tricks or movement. So Jimmy was such a big star that he doesn't do his own like coverage shots. They're like, get one of those other birds.
I'm trying to think what tricks he did. He just kind of hung out on the desk and then he would
Yeah,
fly on and
he
perch
would
onto
fly over
Billy's.
Billy. Yeah. Hey,
Amazing.
it's a
Wow.
wonderful crow.
It's a wonderful crow.
All right. Well, now that we talked about Jimmy, tell me about George.
George Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I liked him. I mean, I'm a sucker for Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
So any role he's in, I gravitate towards. But I feel like George Bailey was a great representation, kind of like what you said in the beginning. Like, is this the great American film?
Yeah.
And he
Mm-hmm.
made it very relatable to, I feel like, the common man. Did you like George Bailey?
I do. And George is a character that has been much lampooned and made fun of and maligned throughout the years,
Mm-hmm.
as is Jimmy Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
But he really brings the goods in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
This was Jimmy Stewart's first film. I think it was like his first like main thing that he did after coming back from World War II.
Yeah.
And I was commenting to Jean-Marie earlier. I was like, it's so crazy. Like around World War II, there were all these famous people who were just like going off to war and then coming back. And like Frank Capra, he was also in the war. And it'd be really odd to, you know, look next to you and Jimmy Stewart is.
I know. Also, just like what a mental shift to go through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I like George. He's like a perfect picture of someone who gives and gives and gives and gives and gives and never asks for help.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people can relate to
Mm-hmm.
that. And when his chips are down and he can't fix it, it literally like drives him to suicide. He's like, this is my only option because asking for help, you know, he goes to Potter because he thinks Potter is the only one who can help him. But yeah, so that definitely resonates with me a lot. And he's funny. He's very like poetic and weird. The whole moon thing.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you feel about the whole moon thing?
Well, at first you're like, oh, this is super sweet. And then as
Mm-hmm.
it continues of like the moonbeams will come out of your fingertips and Aunt and I looked at each other and Aunt was like, that's weird. And it made me laugh. Like I bursted out laughing because I'm like, this is supposed to be like a really sweet moment. And it was until it like
Yes.
continued into like
Yeah.
it coming out of the fingertips and all.
Yeah.
But I
He's a
know that
poet.
yeah, well
Yeah.
I know that's an iconic scene. So,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
And we get a fun scene kind of contrasting that later with Violet
Yeah.
when he's just like roaming through town angry and or it might be before. I don't know. My timeline might be a little messed up. But he's roaming through town and he comes across Violet and he's like, "Oh, we could walk through the grass barefoot and we could go to this and that." And she's like, "Barefoot?" Which I was like, is that weird? Like I feel like that's normal, right?
He's testing the waters.
Right. And then they pull back and the whole like 20 people are somehow surrounding them laughing.
That was another thing that Aunt commented on. He's like, "Where'd these townspeople come from?" I was like, "You know, small towns, people are always around."
Right. But like just gathering,
Hmm.
like listening in on
Yeah.
like him asking her out on this romantic date. And then when she rejects him, I don't know that they point, but like in my mind,
No, they pointed. They're like,
pointing and laughing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And George is just like, well, wow.
He's like, yeah.
Yeah.
He's bitter. He knows what he wants, but he can't get it.
So tell me about Mr. Gower and the poison pills.
Well, at first, it took me it took me a minute of like George, like we see the bottle of poison,
Right.
but it didn't connect that Gower was filling the pills with poison,
Right.
and then George to figure that out of, oh my god, I need to stop this. And so he
Mm-hmm.
sees a sign to go talk to dad, which I was like,
Yeah.
okay, all right. But yeah, I mean, that was an interesting. And then you feel for Gower because his son was killed.
Right.
I mean, I thought the whole ice cream shop scene was entertaining and I thought the kids were great. I mean, little Mary, little Violet, little George.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, Gower was, at first I was like, wow, he's really abusive. But then we realized, and then let me make your ear bleed, but I'm so sorry.
Right.
You're right.
Well,
You saved me.
the thing is that Gower actually was abusive. So the actor who plays Little George
Hmm.
revealed years later
Hmm.
that the actor who played Gower was actually drinking. He was actually drunk, and he actually hit him and made him bleed.
Oh my God.
And so that whole scene where he's like crying and they're like, that apparently that was all real. Isn't that insane?
Trauma.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I tried best I can to verify all of this,
Sure.
multiple sources. And according to this kid, he was like, yeah, he really hit me and it really hurt and I really cried.
Oh,
Yep.
wow. So you got to see that bloody ear in
Yeah.
color.
And I thought to myself, I was like, how did they do that? Did they
Yeah.
put a little packet in his ear and then he popped it? Because that
Right.
seems dangerous too. And then I found out, oh, that's how they did it.
How do you like
They
make
just,
your ear bleed like that if
you
there's no
smack a
cut?
kid as hard as you can. I know. Horrible, right?
Yeah,
Huh?
that's
It's a horrible life.
yeah. What do you think of the kids though? The whole ice cream
I
talk
think
and
it's yeah, I think they're great. They used to call it a druggist, I
mm-hmm.
think. And
Yeah,
yeah, they you would buy medicine and ice cream. I don't know why those two things
I know.
grew up together. It's like way back. Barbers were also dentists a lot of the time.
You know, one stop shop.
Right. Well, you've already got a lawn blade that you're adept with, I guess, so you might as well just stick it in someone's mouth and cut their tooth out.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
how those things
It makes
overlapped, but
sense.
yeah, I like it. And I mean, the actor who plays young George and young Mary, they're both really good. I feel like they exude the same kind of spirit that Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed are
I
giving as
agree.
their characters later on. They don't necessarily like look identical,
Right.
but yeah. No, I thought it was great. George Bailey, I'm going to love you for the rest of my life, whispered into his trick ear.
That's right.
Not a bad ear, a trick ear. Uh,
Uh,
I don't know what
yeah.
tricks it's doing, but yeah.
Not hearing.
So George is like, I'm going to go on this trip. I'm out of here. I'm going to see the world, and then I'm going to come back and go to college. And he ends up not being able to do that. And then he ends up not being able to do pretty much anything that he wants in life except for marry Mary, which I
Yeah,
think is nice.
I do too. And
Yeah.
it also, I feel, is extremely relatable because you have that young hope
Yeah.
when you're a kid and you're just like, I can do anything. The world is my oyster. I don't want to end up like my dad. I don't want to stay in this small town. And then life happens. And
Mm-hmm.
before you know it, you're like your dad in the small town.
Right.
But you have love. So that is something.
Right.
Right.
Right. His dad dies,
Mm-hmm.
so he has to stay behind. He can't go to college. So he gives his brother his college money and sends his brother to college. How do you feel about his brother? Because this is like the second time that George has kind of like saved his life, you know?
Yeah.
He actually saves his life as a kid
Right.
and causes George to lose his hearing. And then he gives him the money to like get out of town. How do you feel about his brother and what his brother does?
Well, like, I think it's so sweet. And George is older than
Yeah.
Harry. His name's Harry, right?
Yeah.
Harry's not a dick. So it didn't
Hmm.
really bother me. And I felt like he didn't take it for granted either. And it really wasn't Harry's story. So we get
Yeah.
these little sprinkles of what Harry ends up doing and who he becomes,
Right.
but I didn't feel like it was shoved in our face. And I don't think George ever regrets it until, the end where he's
Right.
questioning everything. But I didn't mind Harry. Do you not like Harry?
I like Harry, except for when he gets married without telling anybody. You don't invite
Okay.
your mom, you don't invite your brother. Okay, all right, whatever. And then is like, hey, I know I said I'd go to college and then I'd come back and run so that you can leave because that was your dream. But now I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. I don't know. It didn't really bother me.
Okay, all right. It
I
bothers
don't
me.
I don't think we can villainize Harry. I'm not going to
No, I don't
accept
want
it.
to villainize him, but like at a minimum, I would say, okay, I'm going to stay here and work with you for a year so I can learn the business so that you can take a vacation. Like just something. Like you literally just paid for your brother's college. Come
Yeah.
on, man. Like you got to give something back.
Well, you know what George could have said? Hey, I helped you. You should help
But
me.
yeah, but George won't do that because he doesn't ask for help.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So Harry's just in his mind is like, this is it.
right,
I'm gonna
right.
accept where I've landed.
Yeah. What did you think about Mary?
I loved her. And this is my first real experience with Donna Reed. And the only reason I know her name is from Gilmore Girls.
Oh, really?
When Rory has her whole Donna Reed night with Dean.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I've known the name, but I've never explored her. I never watched the Donna Reed show. I've never seen anything she's in. So I was really excited to see her name in this.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's hilarious.
She's such a strong character.
Yes, she's as interesting or more interesting than
Yeah.
George. And it's like so refreshing to see a romantic counterpart not just be like a mirror image of the
Mm-hmm.
main character. Like a lot of times the romantic lead is the opposite of that person, where Mary feels she's just so all over the place. She's got like real personality and real drive to do things. She's not like sitting around wringing her hands, and she's the one who gets them that house
Mm-hmm.
that he says he wouldn't live in if he was a ghost.
I
So I thought that was
mean,
pretty funny.
I kind of agree with that, but she
Hmm.
does nice things.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, but she truly is like an independent person, and she's not playing the I'm just the eye candy, I'm just the
No, yeah,
homemaker, I'm just the damsel in distress
yeah,
character.
yeah. And also not like constantly ragging on George for making the decisions that he
Yeah.
makes. Yeah.
Like,
In fact, after they get married and there's the whole run on the bank,
mm-hmm.
she is the one who's like, "How much money do you need?" Because she's got all the cash, and
Yeah.
she initiates giving all of their money away, which is like a lot of money.
When George and her and we see the like all the houses lined up and
Hmm.
he helps, is it the Martinis move?
Yeah, yeah,
And he gets in the car with like all the children. At first I was like, whoa, we just fast forward. Now they have like all of these children. That like threw me. Sometimes the jumps of the
yeah,
story, I had to like take a second and really observe
yeah,
what was
yeah,
happening. Because again, at this point, I'm like waiting for Clarence to show up. And it's just like, oh, okay, we're just going to live
Well,
out George's life.
right, because Clarence is getting caught up on his whole life so that
Right.
he can
Right. We're all
better help him.
Clarence. Yeah. Yeah.
I love Mary might have my favorite line of this movie in terms of like a comedic line. When her mom is like, "You gotta get George Bailey out of here. Sam, whatever, is calling you." And she's like, "George Bailey, what's he doing here?" And Mary yells up the stairs to her, "He's making violent love to me, mother." I was like, "What?
It was so good.
Like, what does that? Holy moly, Mary! Mary's crazy." And then she
Yeah.
breaks the record after he walks out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Even
yeah,
the
she's awesome.
whole not I know we're jumping around, but in the beginning when they are walking home from the school dance, which wowza,
Yeah,
the
I,
Charleston happening with like a
well,
lot of couples is what a sight.
yeah,
It's so crazy to me
yeah,
to watch all those legs and then no one's hearing as the if the floor is opening in the
yeah.
pool and which is also like so cool.
It was a real place.
I know, in a high
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
Anyway, but when they're
Eh,
walking home and she's in the robe, like that's pretty risque.
yep, yep. I don't know if it's a principal or the teacher. Some guy though at the pool is like, "Oh, it's so great we did this. We saved a ton of money without, we didn't have to build another building." And I'm like, "Okay, I can see that."
Yeah.
That dude is there
Uh-huh.
at the end giving money. And I'm like,
You're right.
literally no one dies. No one ever dies in this town.
How much time passed? Can you fill that in for me?
And that's a great question. I don't know. I have no idea.
Because George is about college age, because Jimmy's playing like this lifespan of a person, minus when he's
Yes.
a
Yeah.
kid. And so
Yeah.
even in the beginning when we're home and him and Harry are making noise upstairs, clogging or whatever, I'm
Mhm.
like, how old are they?
I think he's supposed to be like 19,
Right. And
like
Harry's
maybe
a
20.
senior.
Right. Right.
So, like, how much time are we witnessing in
Right.
this movie?
Because I think we get the idea that George, when he finishes high school, went to work for his dad because
Yeah.
he does know the business and his
Yeah.
father thanks him for working for him. Now he's going to go on this trip. We know that they're not like a rich family, so George probably saved every penny that he earned working there to go on this trip. But then Harry goes away to college. So if George is 2 years older than him and Harry goes to a 4 year school, Harry's 22 when he gets married. George is 24,
Mm-hmm.
24, 25, something like that. Then let's say him and Mary get married instantly and have a kid instantly. That kid is at least 10. His oldest son, right?
Yeah.
Like in the
Pete?
final scene.
Pete is 10?
He's got to be at least 10, maybe a little bit
No, I
older
would
because
say a little bit older. He
the
was
girl
given
played
a
piano.
yeah, Pete
Yeah.
was given a little older vibes.
Yeah. And so, I don't know, George might end up somewhere like 38, 40 by the end of the movie,
And was I think Jimmy was 38 in this movie,
something like that.
which is fine. I'm just like, how much time? And nobody's
Yeah.
dying and the old men don't age. We just have to let that go, I think.
Old people also just used to look so much older
That is true. They're
back
probably
in the
like
day.
40.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Potter's
Gower was 40
right.
years old.
And Potter's probably like 42.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're in
Mhm.
their mid 60s at this point. So, did you recognize the little scamp who opens up the pool?
I didn't until I
Okay.
did see I did some
Yes.
reading and it's alfalfa.
Yes.
And then I was like, oh my God, it is
It
alfalfa from our gang.
very much
Did
is.
you
Yeah.
grow up with the Little Rascals and Spanky and our gang?
I did. Yeah. We had VHS tape collections of Argane and
Yeah, I did too.
Little Rascals. And yeah, it was like fun, pretty racist stuff,
I
some
know.
of it. But my parents always just pointed that out. They're
Yeah,
like, hey,
same.
that's bad. And I
Yeah,
was like, oh, okay.
same. And then I
Yeah.
loved, yeah, I mean, I think every 90s kid loved the Little Rascals.
Oh, absolutely. Penelope Spheris directed that one. She also did Wayne's World and some like early like punk movies too.
I remember that movie had a great bloopers reel.
Yes, as every movie should.
Every movie should. Give us It's a Wonderful Life bloopers.
So we've already kind of talked about him a little bit, but how do you feel about Potter?
Like quintessential
Yeah.
evil guy. You get what he's putting down.
Mm-hmm.
The wheelchair was a nice touch. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if the actor was actually disabled or if he's just like push me around, it like
Yeah,
added to
yeah.
that I'm going to demand something on you.
And maybe they were like, we have to somehow make him older.
Right. Like let's age him
Yeah.
more. Yeah. I got what he was putting down. And then in the end though, he takes the $8,000,
Yeah.
but he gets away with it. Like no, this doesn't come back.
Yeah.
That was
I
odd.
know. Well, he's a bad guy.
It's not the point. We're
Right.
focusing on the good of the town and everybody coming together to help George, but like he's not even going to do anything. He just knows he took the 8,000.
When George bangs on his window, he's like, Merry Christmas, Mr. Potter.
Yeah.
And Potter's like, yeah, and Happy New Year to you in jail. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, am I remembering it wrong that his assistant gives them 8,000 back? That doesn't happen, right?
I don't think so.
Maybe I just kept thinking because he's got that assistant who's witnessing
I know.
this whole, him lying to George about. And I was like, oh, he's gonna show up at the end and be like, by the way, here's that $8,000.
Was he one that
I
showed
don't think
up?
so. I don't think so. I just thought like, as I'm watching it, like, okay, guy,
That would
do
have been
something.
that would have been a good little twist.
So the FBI opened up a investigation into this movie
Wait, in real life?
in real life.
Because I was like, I don't remember the FBI in this movie.
Yeah, in 1947 they investigated because they thought that it was like communist propaganda
Ooh.
because they made the banker guy like such an evil, horrible guy. And George, I mean, okay. Let me preface what I'm about to say with I am not a expert in socialism, but my very ignorant view of socialism, I was like, is what George is doing like socialism? Kind of.
Yeah.
Like it's like, hey, no one's gonna make any money, but we're gonna pool our money together and everyone will build a house. And so yeah, they were like, oh, this is not good. We can't allow this communist propaganda.
Wow.
Yeah.
This started out as a pamphlet, this story.
It was so it was a short story that someone wrote and
Mhm.
couldn't get published, and he tried to get it published. And so he's like, well, nobody will publish it, so I'm just going to print it up and send it as like a Christmas card. If you look online, it's like, oh, he sent it as a Christmas card, but it's probably more like a Christmas present because it was like a whole book,
I was going to say, this is a long card.
Right, yeah.
Right.
And one of the people who he sent it to, who his last name was Hempstead, I know that. He was a producer for RKO, and he was like, oh, we should make this into a movie. This would make a great movie. And then it was in development for a while. Cary Grant was set to star in it.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, I can actually see it,
No.
believe it or not.
I can't see
The
it.
only part that wouldn't make any sense is him playing like 20-year-old George as well as older George, because Jimmy Stewart can pull it off because he is the skinniest man that I've ever seen in my life. I sent a picture to you and Krista, and I was like, Jimmy Stewart in It's a Wonderful Life is literally the skinniest a person has ever been.
Yeah, he's just lanky.
Yeah.
He's just so
And so I
lanky.
kind of believe it. Like, maybe not 20, but I believe that he's a young guy.
I wonder what changes were made from the story to film.
Right. Yeah, I have no idea. Because I know like Capra inserted the bridge because he went to like a real place to get his hair cut or something. And they told him a story about how someone died saving a suicidal woman who jumped off the bridge. And so he inserted that part into the story. But yeah.
Wow.
So since we're at the bridge, we might as well talk about Clarence.
Clarence Oddbody. Oddbody?
Clarence Oddbody.
It's a great cat name. I've added it to my list.
The clockmaker with the mind of a rabbit.
What?
That's how the other angels describe him.
I missed that because I was too.
Yeah, it's right in the very, very, very beginning.
Well, I sent you what I was focused on.
Michelle sends me. Okay. Michelle sends me a picture of the galaxy, or I don't know. I guess these are galaxies within a universe of the angels talking to each other, and it has a snowman drawn around it wearing an oven mitt. Is that
That
right?
that is what I saw. When that was on screen, I was staring at the stars and they're like lighting up, and I'm like staring. And so I took a picture of it and I just opened up an app and I had to draw what I saw, like connect the dots.
Mm-hmm.
And I showed Ant, and Ant like cracked up and he was like, "What?" And then I was like, and then I sent it to you. I was like, I can't be the only one. So I missed all of that. I had no idea Clarence had a backstory because I was too focused on seeing a snowman with an oven mitt.
Yes, yes. Okay, well,
Okay,
we will
moving on.
post that. We will post that. And I am so curious to see if anyone else sees it because I saw it because you drew it, but
Right. Well, Ant said he saw a fetus.
okay, all
So
right.
both of us were connecting dots. I was like,
Yeah.
this is clearly a snowman with an oven mitt.
We're getting into like 2001 brain
Yeah.
again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Clarence is not an angel in the way that we think of like angels, and that's one of the things that I really like about this movie is it's very firmly planted in like a Christian religion, right? Where people are praying, one person who prays to Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. But we're also just being like very loosey goosey with like what all of that means. And one of the things is so Clarence is just someone who died. I don't know why I'm laughing. He's someone who died, I guess, during the time of Mark Twain, because he thinks that Mark Twain has like a new book coming out.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And they say about him before he shows up, before his little star goes like beep, 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 Pac-Man's his way over into the constellation. They say, oh, the clockmaker. So he was a clockmaker. And then the other angel says he has the brain of a rabbit. And I don't know if that means that he's dumb or just that rabbits dart around a lot.
Huh.
I didn't get really any of that from Clarence. Like, Clarence didn't seem like a bumbling fool of an angel to me, like once he came to Earth.
No, he was quite quirky.
Do you think so?
I do. Yeah. But I also
Maybe I
think he
don't
was
know.
he was he was figuring out. I mean, he wants his wings so
Right.
bad.
How many of these? Because it is implied that he could screw this up. I can't even say this. I can't even say this. Okay, it is implied that Clarence can screw this up
Yeah.
and George might actually end his life,
Right. This
which
is some
that's not funny.
serious shit.
But Clarence has been an angel for a long time, 200 years.
Mm-hmm.
How many Georges have there been that Clarence has not helped?
Oh my god, I didn't even think of it like that.
Like, is that a thing? Like, or is this just Clarence's first foray into earthbound
I think that's what it is.
missions?
I think they didn't trust him enough. He wasn't ready yet to go to Earth to truly work on a situation. Like,
Because he says, he's like, oh, is he sick? And they're like, no, it's worse.
yeah, right.
So maybe Clarence has just been like the guardian angel of colds up
Of
until now.
colds,
Like,
a
yeah, like maybe he,
sniffle.
yeah, like maybe he shows up and I don't know.
Yeah, no, they didn't give him the hard stuff yet.
Yeah.
And that's why he's like really figuring it out as he
Yeah.
goes. He didn't know
Yeah.
the plan.
No, he had no plan. He
No,
had
he had no
nothing.
plan.
He bites a guy at one point
Yeah. I mean,
when
his
they're
plan
fighting at
was
martinis.
right. I mean, his plan is like, oh, I'm going to jump into the water here.
Right. Oh, that is the funniest part. Like, you don't even see Clarence like looking down the bridge at him, like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I
Yeah.
do? You just see George looking down at the water and then plop straight into the water. And it's like, was that the like knowing okay, we know that Clarence is quirky. Was that the plan, or did he just like miss his landing? Like, was he supposed to land next to George? And yeah.
I
It's
mean, the
wild.
best part of when we meet Clarence and George and they're drying off is the third guy.
Yeah.
Is he like the bridge attendant? Who is that man?
Security guard. I don't know. I
He's
don't know.
doing great facial expression acting.
He's just reaction guy.
It's so good. It's so good.
Truly the Jimmy the Crow of reaction work.
Yeah.
Capra was like, I need Jimmy the Crow and I need Billy the Face.
Yeah.
Get them both down
It was
here.
so good.
While George and Clarence are talking, George says, everyone would be better if I was never born. And Clarence is like, all right, sure, that's what we'll do. And so Clarence, I guess, creates an alternate universe,
Yeah.
Pottersville, where George was never born because angels just have that much power in this movie, I guess.
Well,
To
it's like Christmas Carol, Ghosts of Christmas Past. They can show you a world.
Is that what happens in Christmas Carol?
Well,
Oh yeah,
it's
I
like
guess
if he
so.
dies or like
Oh
they can
yeah.
show you alternate paths because it's not real. So it's kind of
Okay.
going
All
down
right.
the avenue of kind of make believe, but
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So how did you feel about Pottersville and
Well, this is
George's
what I was
experience
waiting
there?
for because
Yeah.
you know what? I love this shit. I
Yeah.
love any kind of weird alternate universe.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I
go
know I
ahead.
just asked you a question and I want to let you answer that question. But did this remind you at all of Back to the Future 2?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They definitely lift from this. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, like anytime we're going to like as to use a Simpsons reference, like a Shelbyville
Yep.
situation. So
Mm-hmm.
so this is really what I was waiting for. And
Yeah.
again, when you're like, okay, we have 30 minutes left, I'm like, this should have happened earlier, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, again, like Pottersville is just filled with a lot of dancing establishments. And I don't understand
It
how we
turns out.
make so much money. Like, how is the town okay and standing with just nightlife? Lots of it.
Right. It turns out that Potter is like a huge dance enthusiast.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
It seems
Yeah.
that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if he had no one to stand in his way, he wouldn't have a supermarket.
No.
There wouldn't be a doctor's office.
Mm-mm.
It's just nightclub after nightclub. Yeah.
Right. And we do have a library because that's where Mary ends up.
We do. We do. Yes.
She ends up alone and she's a librarian.
Yes. The ultimate hell
That's right.
for a single woman.
She probably has a cat,
Oh, oh, if we spent any more time in
a
this world
couple.
before,
She's got a
yeah,
couple.
yeah, definitely.
What do you think of Pottersville?
Um, I'm I'm not gonna say that it doesn't work
Hmm.
because I think it works to like really like make George frantic.
Yeah.
You know, like George has gotten worked up in the movie before, but for the most part, he's a very steadfast, self-sacrificing person, and we just see him time and time again, like he'll have this like downcast look and like he takes more weight on himself when his dad dies and they're like, the only way that they'll do it is if you stay, and he's like, I guess I'm staying forever, and all these things keep happening, but nothing really like makes him like frantic. And I think Pottersville works in like rapid succession of just like seeing all this weird, like I'm not really sure what's happening with Violet. Like she's getting kicked out of that one establishment. Obviously nobody knows him.
Well,
But like,
right. And then we see, I think, the first initial of, oh my God, I did so much. We had martinis.
yeah.
And then it ends up becoming Nick's. So I guess
Yeah.
in real world, Nick doesn't get to really own anything.
Yeah, well, Nick works at Martini's, so
Yeah,
it's just like,
but in
yeah,
Pottersville, he gets to own the bar.
right, right,
So
right.
everything's coming up Nick in
And like
Pottersville.
the cop is still a cop, the cab driver is still a cab driver.
Right. I mean, that stuff. It's like their
Mary is
destiny was always to
just a
be
librarian,
right. Right.
And so yeah, like again, I don't want to say it doesn't work because I do think that it works. I just don't know that it's like this evil, horrible, like if he came to Pottersville and it was more like run down and everyone was homeless, and because he wasn't around to build all those homes and like people were out of a
Got it.
job, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just kind of like alternate, you know what I mean? And like the biggest
Mm-hmm.
difference is that no one knows who he is.
Yeah, it just seems like everybody's more cold and likes exotic dancing in
Yeah,
Pottersville.
yeah.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then, when he decides like to come back and he realizes that he's back, I like all of that stuff. Like I want
Yeah.
to live again. And you know, I'm a pretty depressed person, like pretty terminally depressed, like nonstop. And
Mm-hmm.
there are definite times where you come back to like the realization of like who is in your life and how good you have it. And it shouldn't always be in comparison to other people. Like when we were kids, and probably people still say this to their kids, you know, your parents would say like, well, you should eat that because there's people starving somewhere else, or you should appreciate what you have because other people don't have it. And like that is true, but we shouldn't need to like look at someone else suffering in order to realize like how good we have it, you know.
Yeah, it's true.
So for me, this movie like really works. Hey, everybody should keep living and appreciate what you have and realize, yes, like life is a massive series of disappointments. And you really might come to like, you know, he's having like a midlife crisis basically. It's brought
Mm-hmm.
on by his circumstances, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, you might come to this point in your life where you're like, nothing matters, but um it's always better to continue on.
Yeah, and at the end, you just want to be comforted by your loved ones. I
Yep.
mean, have you ever experienced something where you feel like you're having an attack, or it could be like anxiety attack, or you're in extreme pain, maybe you hurt yourself, and all you want is like to be loved and to be cared for? And so that's what it comes down to. If you have that,
Yeah.
sometimes it can be hard to remember that, but that's truly what does matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also like people responding in the way that you need them to.
Yeah.
Because when he goes home, which might be the best scene in the movie, not the second time, when he comes home after he thinks he's going to prison and his kids are running around and Mary's getting ready for the party, it's really nice. Like he doesn't walk into her, you know, ragging on him and the kids are like, oh, I failed gym class, or you know, all that stuff. Like everyone's really nice and happy, but it's like not what he needs for them to be doing. And so in the end, when it's like, I need $8,000 and people give him the money, it's nice to see the way that people want to help him is actually the way that he needs help.
Right.
Yeah. And so like that's good too. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you can be, you know, your head is all a wreck and you want to be like, yeah, you know, I know that it's nice for someone to say like, hey, cheer up, but I need X, Y, and Z.
You need the resource. You need the
Yeah.
actual
Yeah.
resource.
Or like you were saying, sometimes you really just want for someone to, you know, say nice things to you or encourage you or,
Mhm.
you know, sometimes share that they've been through the same thing.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, I think yeah, it's great. It's a good movie. It's a
Yeah.
good message.
When he comes home in that scene and he gets so mad, right? Because he's just so far like, this is the end. How am I going to fix this? I do appreciate that we still see that glimpse of, oh, but he is still a father
Mm-hmm.
and a family man, and his concern is Zuzu, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
he's, as much as he's upset with life, he's like, you know, what do you mean she's sick? What kind of medicine did
Mm-hmm.
she take?
Mm-hmm.
He goes up, he checks her, feels her forehead. Still a father. And I like that we saw that sweet moment during this like explosion of
Yeah.
tornado that's
Yeah.
happening.
And he gets upset. He destroys his models, but he apologizes to them,
Yes.
and he says, he's like, "Hey, what did you need to know?" Like, because this kid was asking him a question, and
Yeah. And he says, keep
it's
playing the piano. And
yeah,
those kids were great.
yeah,
Like
good
all
kids,
those
good family.
kids. It's
Do you
like,
know what Zuzu's named after?
a ginger snap.
Yes, I didn't
Yeah.
know that,
I didn't
and
know.
I
I
was always
mean,
like,
I know.
"Why?"
Well, I was saying to Anne, I'm like, okay, so we have Pete, we have Janie. I forgot the other one. Is it Paul? I don't remember. And I was like, then we have
Yeah,
Zuzu.
yeah,
And then I looked
sure.
up. First, I saw it was short for Susanna, and I was like, okay. But then I read, I was like, oh, Ginger Snap. That's
Mm-hmm.
cute.
Yeah.
I love
So
Ginger
George and
Snap.
Mary are just like, let's name our kid after a cookie.
Why not, man? She's sweet.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
cool. So Mary saves the day. Like he leaves and she doesn't get upset. She's just like, boom. And she puts in all these phone calls and like telegrams and stuff. And so by the time George comes back, you know, we're in the final scene of the movie and he's happy just to be alive. Like he's happy to be alive and to have his kids. And the bank inspector and the police show up and he's like, yeah, you're going to take me to jail, right? All right, whatever. Merry Christmas. Like he doesn't even care
Yeah.
at that point. And then everybody starts streaming in and giving him money, and this is the point where I'm just like crying like crazy. And then Hee
Mm.
Haw guy
Mm-hmm.
says he's gonna give him like $25,000, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'm crying even more. And then his
Mm-hmm.
brother shows up and he calls him the richest man in town.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't think that George ever wanted to be rich. Like, he wanted to travel the world. He wanted to like do great
He
things.
wants experiences and
Yeah.
be a like a memorable part of society, and
Yeah.
that doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean financially.
He does say, like, when he's talking with his dad's like, oh, you still gonna make $1 million before you're 30, or something like that, whatever. But I don't think that George was ever like, I want to be like rich. He
Right.
just wanted to do big things.
Yeah.
And so for his brother, who got to go and do all those things and who like just won a medal of honor, for him to like toast him in front of everybody and say like, no, like, you are actually, like, it's not Potter, like, you are actually the most important person in town and you're the richest man in town. It's great.
It
And
is
yeah, I'm
great.
just crying a ton.
You're crying up until Annie comes in, and Annie's like, "Here's the money I saved for the day that I would get a divorce if I ever got married."
Yes, I did think that was funny.
Annie is I very
Annie's great.
much loved her lines.
Yeah, Annie's great.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's another piece of evidence for Harry being a jerk is Harry's slapping Annie on the butt.
I know.
Yeah, and we're all
Yeah.
just supposed to be like, ha, 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 that's what you do with your
No.
maids.
No. No, no,
Yeah,
no.
just a few quick little facts before we move on.
Mm.
One, Beulah Bondi had played Jimmy Stewart's mother twice before this, and she would go on
Oh,
to play his mother one more time.
I love
Isn't that
that.
great? She's also great.
Yeah.
So I know at the beginning of the episode, I had said that this was written by Frank Capra, Francis Goodrich, and Albert Hackett. Goodrich and Hackett quit. They said that they were like almost finished, but like not finished with the script, and Capra was like pressuring them. They asked, when are you going to be finished? And they said, right now. They said they put their pencils down and just never returned to the script. And so there were like a
Whoa.
few other people brought in, like different people. I can't remember his first name, but his last name is Trumbo. They made a movie about him. He was like a blacklisted
Mm.
screenplay writer.
Mm-hmm.
So different people came in to write on the screenplay. Bedford Falls was built on 4 acres. It was massive. Like, they built a whole little mini town.
That's insane. Did they
Yeah.
end up using that for any other film?
Some sets came from another film.
Okay.
Yeah. So I do just want to mention the snow.
Yes.
More so in the black and white version, not in the colored version. This is like the best looking snow just ever.
It's so good. And also the fact that this movie was filmed in July in 90-degree weather.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that to me, when I read that and then I see this fake snow, I'm like, how?
Yeah. How? So Capra had studied as an engineer. So they came up with this like new way of doing snow because Capra wanted to film outside without the noise of crunching under cornflakes, which
Right.
was, I guess, what had been
Which
used.
isn't that crazy to think about painted cornflakes?
Yeah, it's
Did they just
nuts.
like put it in a vat
I like a
and
tumbler
just
thing.
like, okay, we're
Yeah.
painting the cornflakes. That's your
Right.
job today. We need a lot of it.
Well, so they ended up using 6,000 gallons of the stuff that they made.
It's
So
crazy.
sometimes they would use ivory soap flakes or chipped ice, but then they would use something that's like close to what's in fire extinguishers, and they would mix it with sugar, I think like some starches or whatever, and it
Mm.
made like wet, soppy snow that you could like put on clothes, and they just blew it. Like, they piped it up to these massive fans. I found a picture that's pretty crazy. Like, the fans are like 2 stories tall, and they would just blow it in front of it, and it looks real.
It's so
Never,
cool.
never would I have thought that this wasn't real snow.
Did they end up using this process for other movies?
I'm not sure. I know they won a special technical award,
As they should.
the Academy Awards,
Mm-hmm.
for it, but I don't know. I'm not sure. For
Wow.
all I know, it's what they're still using today.
No, I don't.
You don't think so? Why
Mm,
not?
I don't know. What do I
Why mess
know?
with
I don't even know
perfection?
why I said that. I have no idea. I have
There's
no
that
idea.
great video that was going around on TikTok of Dawson's Creek. They had an episode where they needed snow, and so they literally just put like a sheet on the grass.
Yes, I've seen that.
And then as the characters are walking, you see like all the snow like moving because it's just a sheet. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do love so many little moments in this movie. Like we could talk for a really long time. But the other moment that really stuck out to me is when George is at home and his kid keeps grabbing his pants and he's like, "Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me." And finally George is like, "What?" And the kid's like, "I burped."
Yeah.
And then runs away. It's so funny. And it's like, yeah, that is what having a kid is like. You are having the worst day of your life. Like, you just got horrible news. Your head is spinning. And they're like, ah.
I burped.
Yeah, I burped.
Yeah. It's cute.
It's a Wonderful Life was made for $3.7 million, which was a whole lot of money. By the way, the 8 grand, did you look up the exchange on this?
No, no.
So 8 grand back in 1946 is equivalent to like $126,000 today.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, no wonder why we were contemplating suicide.
exactly. Yeah, you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to prison.
Uh-huh.
So they make it for 3.7 million. It only makes 3.3 million back at the box office. Capra goes into like a little bit of debt and has trouble financing future films.
Why was that? Why did it do so poorly?
People did not like it. They didn't respond. Critics didn't really like it.
What was the first Christmas movie? Not the one with like the Santa that's like 10 seconds long.
That's a good
But I
question.
wonder when, like, who was the first to be like, you know what? Let's make a
Right.
movie surrounded around this holiday.
Right.
Because this one to
Well,
me is not so much a Christmas movie.
yeah, Miracle on 34th Street predates this by a while. That was in the 30s.
And White Christmas the fifth? I've never seen White Christmas. Is that 50s? Have you seen White Christmas?
I haven't.
Okay, yeah, White Christmas, 1954. That's another one where I was like, huh, that's a movie. There's always just so much we can cover, you know.
Oh, I'm totally wrong. Miracle on 34th Street was actually 1947. It was a year after this one. Wow, this is why you fact check things live, folks.
I mean, or you just edit it out. Okay, here's one, and we don't have to keep on it, but
Yeah,
so we have a Christmas Carol,
yeah,
which was originally a written, wasn't
yeah,
it? Right? When
yeah.
did that become? I don't know when the first Christmas Carol was. Movie.
I'm seeing one from 1938.
Wow.
Yeah.
I kind of want to watch that.
Hey,
I had this
that's a good thing
idea
about movies.
sidebar. I was like,
Yeah.
I think I want to like watch all the Little Women movies and do like a series on it.
Hmm.
Like in a row. Like
Yeah.
and that would be it.
Oh, there's a movie Scrooge from 1935. They were just going straight for the Scrooge story.
I've never seen
Uh,
Scrooged with Murray.
Here's one from 1910,
How
1923,
do they do the ghosts, I wonder?
1908,
Oh,
1914.
no
There's a
way.
ton. Oh yeah, yeah, they've adapted this movie a lot.
Oh my god, did you see the one from 1908 is 15 minutes long?
That's pretty impressive for 1908. Yeah, I wonder if that's
I wonder if we can how can I
um,
watch this?
pretty much anything prior to like 1920. If you just type in A Christmas Carol
You can find.
1908 into YouTube, most of those things are on there. If this is not a lost film,
Got it. Did you see Scrooge or Marley's Ghost 1901?
no,
Wow.
but I
Well,
believe it. I mean,
that's great. That's really cool, actually. I might watch all if I can watch these. It's not enough time in the day.
I agree. Yeah, and Capra and Stewart both said that they didn't think of this as a Christmas movie when they were doing it.
I mean, do you think it's a Christmas movie?
I do. I really do because we end at Christmas.
Yeah,
And
but
I know that like that's only the last 15 minutes, but I still think it counts.
no, I think it counts. But to
Yeah,
me, it's as much a Christmas movie as like Edward Scissorhands.
definitely. Right. And that's a great comparison because, yeah, it only comes like right to the end.
Right.
about two extremely skinny men and the women that they love. This currently has 94 on Rotten Tomatoes, 4.4 on Letterboxd. High, 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 high.
Yeah.
89 on Metacritic. This did have a Criterion release, but it's similar to some of the other movies we've talked about where they only did like the Laserdisc. It hasn't like re-entered the collection since they've been doing like DVDs and Blu-rays. This was entered into the National Registry in 1990. And Roger Ebert gave this 4 stars and named it as one of his great films. Now we're going to go to What the Cack. This is the part of the show where we talk about what we would cut, what we would edit, and what we would keep. Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
I would like you to go first.
Okay, so I would cut. I don't know. Ooh, it's gonna be hard. What would I cut?
Can I throw out? I felt like this should be like a
Sure.
writer's room, open forum.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Sure.
I feel that, and I don't want to say this because I'm really trying, guys, to not go with the typical Michelle answer, but I feel like we could shorten this movie a little bit
Sure.
and it would
Sure.
still have the same effect.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I would cut little pieces here and there, like seconds.
That's what I'm saying. Like cutting is like I'm done with this whole character or person.
No.
You know what I mean? Like editing is more like let's trim around
That's
it. So
what I'm
I don't
saying.
know that I would cut anything.
That's how I feel.
But maybe edit, pull up some of the stuff. I mean, I can think of like in the very beginning when George goes to his dad and we see him and Potter arguing. It is establishing how bad of a guy Potter is, but it's also like we kind of get that over and over and over again. So maybe I could say that. For editing, I don't know that I needed to hear Buffalo Girls Won't You Come Out Tonight like 30 times.
Yeah, that was their song.
Yeah, and then she's got it on record. No, I mean, I don't know, man. And then I am keeping the entire final party because, like I said, I just cry. Like I think that might be like perfection, like film perfection. Honestly, like just like I said, all the characters coming in kind of one at a time. If you've seen the movie, you recognize who they are, you remember what their relationship is, and I feel like it's not cheesy. It's obviously very far fetched, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I think that that's perfect. So.
Well, that's crucial. You have to keep that. I'm also gonna keep when Mary and George are walking home after the dance and they're wearing different clothes and the pants are falling down on George. I'm keeping that. But like I said, I'm not really cutting anything. I think I'm just making little trims.
Yeah.
Just to like condense it a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Tighten it up.
Yeah.
So we have some friends on Twitter what they thought. An Alex Werewolf in London.
What?
Which is from An American Werewolf in London film.
I don't know. I got excited for nothing.
He might be keeping his name from Spookytober.
Yeah, I was waiting for those holiday names.
At Flowering Snows says that final scene is probably my favorite ending as it just hits perfectly every single time as George realizes the sacrifices he's made have been worth something. A toast to my big brother George, the richest man in town. Felicia at Cinemaroni, she's the host of the Seeing Faces in Movies podcast, which you should definitely check out. They just started their series on Ingmar Bergman, who is maybe one of the top 3 most important directors of all time. So check it out if you're a film lover. She says, when I was a teen, I once fell madly in love with a boy who could do a spot-on Jimmy Stewart impression. I don't even remember if he was attractive. All I could picture was Jimmy when he spoke. Anyway, the reason why no one wanted Bailey to leave is because he was the town hottie.
I love Felicia's thirst level. It's probably one of my favorite things. And every time she like points out another husband on Twitter, I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's unparalleled, I think.
I love it.
Maniac Mike.
It's coming in. I just picture the Tasmanian devil.
As for Maniac Mike?
Yeah.
At Mina Wamina 707, he says, it shouldn't have worked on me, but it did. Lovely film slash schmovie. I hope that's how you say it according to your categories. Michelle, the schmovie has left your mind and entered other people's. Can you believe it?
I love when like terms I use in my vernacular reach the people.
Mike, you just gave Michelle like a very big smile, just so you know.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
All right, this is a mouthful. The Right Honorable Sir Not So Great Dictator ABCKLFMA at NS Great Dictator.
Is this a bot?
No, this is a person.
Oh, okay.
This a bu- So he was responding to my tweet, which said, I want to hear from people who think Mr. Potter was right.
Mm-hmm.
He says all he wanted was to provide affordable housing for working stiffs. George crushed his dreams at every step. Also, the nightlife was way better in Pottersville.
You know what? That answer matches that username.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see the It's a Wonderful Life told from Potter's perspective, where like the Baileys just keep ruining everything he wants to do.
He has a business plan. He's a businessman.
Yeah. And Jamila, nymph of the net,
Yes.
at Jamila Brownie, says, so excited for this. My mom and I watch this all the time. Again, not just at Christmas. It has everything: humor, romance, memorable lines, and a relatable melancholy that, of course, gets resolved. There's a reason the McAllisters endured watching it even in different languages.
You're right.
Yep.
Wow.
This is what they're watching
This is
in
what
Home
they're
Alone.
watching.
Yep.
I love that. And we covered both.
We did.
Beautiful.
So there's some friends that we do know. Now we're going to go to a segment of the show where we hear from people that we don't know on the internet. It's called Half Star, 3 Star, 5 Star. All right, so these are reviews from letterboxd.com. We start with a half-star review, which is the lowest rating that you can give a movie. We go all the way up to a 5-star review, which is the highest rating that you can give a movie. And I, at Michelle's request, I'm going to read the half-star review as Jimmy Stewart.
Yes.
And, you know, we always get here and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I got to tell you, folks, I practiced. I looked up videos on how to do a Jimmy Stewart impersonation, and it is still going to be bad. And I remembered while preparing for this that the whole reason this whole stupid bit came about is because I'm not good at impressions.
Hey, listen, maybe this is something we retire in 24.
Hey, you never know.
We never hear
But you
from
know
the
what?
people. Can you send us an email? Should Seth continue?
Should we keep
Or
doing
should
bad
I do the
accents?
impressions?
Yes, everyone is going to say yes to that. Of course, I'm saying yes to that.
Uh-huh.
Why would you say that? Why? What did you just do to yourself?
Well, because I like to spice things up.
In 3 months, Michelle's going to be like, why did I ever say
Yeah, I'm going to be like, fuck y'all, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. So here is Jimmy Stewart reading a half-star review
Okay.
of what he said was his best movie. Boring, slow, tiresome to watch. It's not a Christmas movie either, so yeah. Calling this a Christmas movie is like calling Lady and the Tramp a Christmas movie just because there's a Christmas scene in it. It's not good. Nostalgia is the only reason why people remember this movie fondly. Half star.
It was good. I don't
Okay,
know if it
thank you.
was Jimmy, though, but it was somebody else.
It was something.
And that's why I had my eyes closed because I was like, who is reading to me right now?
Right.
Yeah. Wow. What a choice to bring Lady and the Tramp in.
Hey, they hate that movie too.
Yeah, I guess so.
3 star review says Frank Capra's Christmas classic, It's a Wonderful Life, is led by a sublime performance by James Stewart. Starting off rather strong and ending on a masterful final act, it is rather unfortunate that the rest of the film felt pretty dull and flat. I honestly believe if you cut out 30 to 45 minutes of this film, it would have been better off.
Yeah.
Yep, and I don't agree, but I understand.
Yeah. Right.
Yep. 5-star review says everything that needs to be written about this movie has already been written. So I will simply say that It's a Wonderful Life is nearly 2 hours of buildup to one powerhouse scene, so emotionally potent that over 70 years later, we are still reeling from its impact.
Wow. Very well
Yeah.
said. Very well
Yeah.
said.
All right. So we rate the movie as a schmovie, a movie, or a film. We rate it 1 through 5 stars and talk about recommendations and final thoughts. Michelle, do you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so I am rating this a movie and
Okay.
I'm rating it 4.2.5 stars. I
Wow.
think this is a great movie. I love the message. I love Jimmy Stewart. And we've already talked about if we just trimmed a little bit of the length, I think we could still have the same impact. The ending scene is great. Everybody acted really well in this. I would recommend this if you haven't seen it.
Hmm.
Absolutely. But because I didn't grow up with it, I don't have that draw to it. So
Yeah.
I would watch it again, but I don't think this is a movie I will watch every Christmas season. That's not what
Got
this
it.
movie is for me.
Got it.
Yeah.
I love how Maniac Mike said this is a schmovie film. He's
I
wrapping
know.
around the two ends. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that this is a movie,
Hmm.
and I had it rated as 4 stars,
Hmm.
and I'm bumping that up. I'm going to go 4.5 stars for this movie.
Wow. What a difference from last week, Mr. 2.5.
Well, we're
Well,
talking about a good movie. Hey, if you want to talk about a good movie, send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. You can write us about anything you want. Did you ever jump off a bridge to save an angel's life? Let us know.
you got any Kate Hudson stories, Cameron Diaz stories, celebrity
Yeah.
stories?
Do you like to flick a lighter and say hot dog?
Hot dog.
We'd also love it if you'd rate and review the show wherever you're listening. It really helps the computer overlords push our show to other new listeners and, you know, widen our community of listeners.
It would be cool if you shared our show with a friend
That's also super cool.
and let us know.
You can also support the show, patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. You get access to, like, honestly, just so much additional episodes. It's really insane, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
at this point. We have an episode that is coming out on Black Christmas, the great seminal horror film. We've got episodes coming out on Freaks and Geeks. We have a really fun, super amazing film club episode coming out with our patron Kate. And yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff going on and new stuff coming in the new year. So there's never been a better time to sign up and support the show. So normally at this part of the show, I would announce what we're going to talk about next week. But our next episode actually releases on Christmas Day, which don't feel bad for me, folks. I'm not going to be like on my computer on Christmas Day. We can schedule these episodes. And so I thought, you know what? Let's just let it be a surprise. This will be our Christmas gift from you. And you will wake up Monday morning, and the first thing that you will do is you will go to your podcast player and you'll see what we're doing. And I feel good about doing that because it's a movie that is very accessible and it's a movie that most people have seen.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
It's a great
cool.
one that when you're driving to your relatives that day, you're going to throw it on
Absolutely.
in the car.
Absolutely. When you and your cousins go for a walk,
You'll put on
you
movie
know,
friends.
absolutely. Say, hey, cousin, listen to this.
It's great. Look what I discovered since I last saw you.
That's right.
Hmm.
I mean, thinking about that, going back a whole year, last Christmas time, I was telling everybody, hey, this show's coming out in a few weeks for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Wow. I
What a
watched a
year it's been.
lot of movies this year, Seth.
Well, save it for the
Okay.
save it for the end of the year wrap up episode. There's going to be a lot of soul searching, I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, until we see you next time on Christmas. Holy moly. And by the way, if you don't listen on Christmas, you're not a real friend, but whatever.
Mm-mm. You don't like movies either.
Yeah. Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Seth.
Thanks for listening. Remember, guys, it's a wonderful life. And until next time, when we're talking about Mystery Movie, have a good one.
Movie Friends is produced by Seth Vargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Music by Anthony Vicora. If you like the show, please subscribe and give us a rating. It really helps us find new friends. Thanks!